Hi everyone, and welcome to Lobby Talks by Atollo. My name's James Lemon, your host and the founder of Atollo, and this is our weekly chat with an interesting industry leader who can share some stories, tell us a little bit about their career, have some fun trading ideas, and really just shed some light on the different pockets of hospitality that are hot right now and where it's happening. We know there's lots of people across the industry thinking about, is hospitality right for me? Where might I go next? And what does the future have in store? And so I'm really excited to be working with our guest today, Harriet Brown. Harriet literally started on the front line of hospitality behind a bar and has had a really fun career leading to her current role at Too Good To Go, a big social enterprise with a massive social mission around sustainability and food waste. But I'm not going to give too much away. We're going to spend the next 25 minutes or so unpicking that with Harriet. Harriet, welcome to the show. Welcome to the stage.
Thank you for having me. Lovely to be here.
Oh, absolutely. Our pleasure. Great to have you here. So, Harriet, I know you know the Atollo and Lobby Talks format. We're not meeting on a video conference because that would just be so passé right now. We're meeting in a cool virtual lobby that you've selected for us. So maybe we can start there. Tell us a bit about where we're meeting this morning.
Absolutely. So welcome to the Corinthia Hotel, Budapest. It's where we are, beautiful lobby, as you can see there. I've selected this lobby as I think this is where my love of hospitality began. My parents are diplomats, so we spent a lot of our younger years traveling around the world, and we lived for a few years in Budapest. And it was when I was 15 and needing to do some work experience. So luckily, Mum met the general manager of the Corinthia, and he invited me to do a 2-week work experience across the hotel. So I spent time in housekeeping, in the kitchen, events, reception, concierge, in the spa, and I fell in love. It was such a beautiful place, such a buzz, intense, the pressure. There were some celebrities that came to stay. It was, really glamorous. And from then I've worked in hospitality since. So this is why we're here today. Felt like it seemed right.
And it's exactly what hospitality should be, right? A little bit of glamour, a little bit of excitement, and it sounds absolutely manic as well. It sounds like they made good use of you during work experience.
I think that free labor, loved it.
Absolutely.
It was brilliant. It was brilliant.
Well, look, we are all about getting some good hands-on experience and seeing a bit of everything hospitality has to offer. So look, let's sit back, grab a drink, and get stuck into it. So look, I kind of teased with this fab career you've had, kind of finding your place in hospitality. But we ask all our guests if they're up for outlining their career in just 60 seconds. Are you feeling up for the challenge?
Yes, here we go. Let's go for it. So started working in pubs and bars and coffee shops, then went to Newcastle University, studied psychology, loved people, loved behavior, then saw the Carluccio's grad scheme. So thought that seems perfect. It's people, it's restaurants. I love it. Did that for a few years working on the floor, then moved into recruitment where I was able to help other people find jobs that they loved. Moved to a new company that also did a bit of marketing as well. So found that really getting to know businesses and helping them achieve what they want to achieve. And then finally now I'm working at Too Good To Go, which is a food waste app, enabling hoteliers, restaurateurs, supermarkets, whoever they may be, to reduce their food waste. It's been varied, but it's been amazing up till now.
Fantastic. Well, I think you absolutely smashed that. It's good. I like the way that essentially for you just said it really fast.
Go as fast as you can.
And we can't avoid the fact that you've taken us to this gorgeous Corinthia and Budapest, but actually your formative hospitality years were spent in Newcastle in the north of England. So I imagine a little bit different, right?
Yeah, travel spas are a real interesting thing to be involved.
a cultural phenomenon for those not from the UK. Certainly, you can't avoid a couple of good nights out in the north of England to experience true British hospitality.
Exactly.
All good. No, that sounds fab. Well, we really want to dig into this. So our first section is called Good Day, Bad Day. We know that stories are best told in this industry from the highlights and the lowlights. So would love to hear from you kind of behind the curtain, really. What's been your best day in hospitality? How did that go?
So my best day was back when I worked in recruitment. To tell the story, I need to take you 2 years before that day. So 2 years prior to that, I met a lovely young Spanish chef who came. He just got to London from a small town in Spain. He had cooking experience. He'd worked in some sort of family-run bistro type sort of tapas bars, come to London, and his ambition was to find a role in a kitchen that would win a Michelin star. And that was his vision. It was very, very particular. It meant I need to find a restaurant that was looking to win a star, didn't have a star, that would take on a sort of fairly green chef into London. We found that place for him, and he started working there as a commis chef. Cut forward to 2 years later, I get a phone call from this chef who says, Harriet, we have won the Michelin star. We have just got a star in our hotel, and I've been promoted to be a chef de partie. And I was so thrilled, because his dream when he arrived here, it was very clear he had a vision, and I was able to, in some part, help him get to that. Obviously, I can't take credit for them winning the star. I cannot take credit for him being promoted, but being able to have facilitated that in some way and be that sort of introduction was really cool. Made me very proud to be doing what I was doing. So that was probably the best day.
Fantastic. I absolutely love that. Well, congratulations. And you should definitely take credit for your part in the story. It's all about the fit. They never would have got that without him. What do you think it is that gets some people to know their hospitality journey so early on? Right? He obviously turned up with an absolute burning mission. But I don't know about you. I don't think I felt like that at that age. And I think a lot of people are kind of in their current hospitality roles, restaurants, bars, events, thinking, well, I don't really know. I don't really know if this is for me. I don't really know where to go. What do you think was the difference between this guy? Was it something about kind of parenting, or some kind of inspiration received early on, or something else?
I'm not sure. He had a spark to him. I warmed to him instantly. He was just such a lovely guy. Still is. He's still working in London restaurants. I think he had obviously seen on TV and like been reading chef books, and he arrived with a cookbook that he was reading just when he was waiting in our lobby, and you could just tell he really had that passion. But he was quite rare. Most of the candidates I'd meet would sort of come to me and say, I have no idea. What do I do? What have you got? Where do I go? So actually most people I meet, and I think it's probably a good thing for people to hear, don't know what's next, don't know what they should be doing. So that's okay. I don't know what's next for me. I'm happy in my current role, but it's unusual to have people who are so driven and have such a clear mission. I think it forms as you grow, as you sort of taken from one thing to another. But I think it's really lovely when you meet those people who have that vision. I think they'll go far, and he definitely will.
Absolutely. Rare breeds. I think, hopefully nice for the rest of us to realize we don't have to be like that. But at the same time, there's certain ingredients there, right? He got up and did something about it. He obviously networked and put himself in the right positions. Exactly. And it sounds like a lot of hard work as well.
He moved to another country because he knew that was what he had to do, which I think is also quite a brave move. But a lot of people in our hospitality industry do that, which is what I think is so cool. Like, there is such an ability to be in a global industry and experience it in different countries.
Yeah, getting paid to travel. Like, I think people just don't talk about that enough, right? No. You genuinely can. And I remember, someone I worked with went to TGI Fridays, I think in Edinburgh, learned to do a flair cocktail course. And that was what he did for a year. Didn't absolutely love it, but that he was doing his time and just took those skills abroad, just actually traveled the world for a few years and could straight away walk into quite decent jobs, lots of tips, just taking that skill. So I think it really is there in hospitality in all kinds of roles. If you want to, here we are in the Corinthia in Budapest, right? It's not that dissimilar to luxury hotels all over the world. So really interesting. Cool. So look, we generally like to be positive, but let's go the other side of the coin for now. Take us through, a bad day for you?
Unfortunately, this is a day back on the floor, and it's one I don't know why it sticks in my memory. I think you sort of forget quite a lot of the bad days when you're in the floor, because they do come quite often sometimes. This one particular day, I was on an all-day shift, got in the morning, and one of the loo cubicles was leaking. Right. Oh no, this is not a good start. Anyway, call a plumber.
All bad stories involving a toilet, this is going to go well.
Exactly. It's always that start. But put the yellow floor sign out, block it off. The plumber starts working where you think, okay, deal with that issue. Then just before lunch service kicks off, in walks one of the EHO officers. We've been expecting a visit from them for a couple of weeks, and in they walk. And even though we knew we were absolutely spot on, Carluccio's has phenomenal standards. We knew we'd done everything. We do our checks in the morning, we do them before close. There is still that fear that, oh my God, what if there's a chicken breast somewhere, or, you get that fear, right? So we're then panicking. Customers are coming in for their lunch. They don't know. We can't tell them that Mr. EHO's here. So they carry on. The kitchen are having to deal with that whilst lunch is going on. Then after lunch, just before dinner service starts, one of the team starts to feel really ill. You think, oh no, they're going to have to go home. You can't have someone poorly working on the floor. They need to go and rest up. So send them home. We're now one man or woman down. So we're then tackling dinner service after having a leaking loo, EHO visit, and with one person down. Somehow we all made it through alive. We had no complaints. It was a very smooth service, but all those things that happened, you just think, why? What did we do to deserve all of this in one shift? And when we sat down, we had a beer afterwards and just thought, thank God that day is over. But it was really nice that actually, even though it was a really bad day, you still look back and think, we made it through alive. No one knew what was happening. All the customers were okay. But yeah, at the time it was felt like you're walking through mud. You feel like everything's going in slow motion. You're thinking, what more could you throw at me? But yeah, it's you can look back and laugh now, but I tell you that evening was tough.
Yeah, it certainly is. And sometimes it's just, there's that cascade of events, isn't it? Just one thing after another. You're like, but at the same time, you sometimes feel like, once you raise your game, you're kind of on that high level of performance, right? And you kind of like, actually, you've thrown any one of those things at you on a normal day, you'd be like, oh, this is not going to be a great day. But suddenly when it all happens at once, you're like, actually, you know what? We can handle the next one. Today can't get any worse, I suppose. It's the way you might think about it. And I guess, we're on tenterhooks. Did you pass the inspection?
We did, of course.
Flying colours, right?
Absolutely, yeah.
As long as the guy didn't need to use the toilet, it was absolutely fine.
Well, no, because we had 3. If that had been the only one, we'd have had to close, you see. But there were others. So he was like, well done, you've put the yellow floor sign, all good.
Perfect.
Yeah, that's the key. Always use a yellow floor sign. That's important.
There you go. If you want to pass if you want to get off the hook on anything of responsibility, maybe we could use that for those of us that work at home. We could just start planting yellow floor signs like in our Zoom backgrounds. And,
yes.
Lovely. No, really good. Thanks for sharing. Yeah, tough days. And I think anytime you work in operations, there's always going to be a myriad of things going wrong. I guess it comes down to the team, right? If you could just rely on people to do their stuff and to rally around and support each other, you'll figure it out.
Yeah, I can't imagine what it's like now, because this was back in 2015 or so when there was no COVID. Life was just tough, or so we perceived. And now having all of that on top of social distancing, the pandemic, you really feel for everyone out there now. It is tough.
Yeah. And unfortunately, actually, I think a lot of that's actually changed the hospitality experience, right? There's still a lot of that, even if we're not using it, there's still a lot of that signage up. There's still a lot of plastics everywhere, kind of confusion on what the rules are in any one particular city, country, or state. It's a confusing time. Anyway, for a longer discussion and definitely for people beyond
another whole topic
beyond our skills. So look, our next section we call Last Day on Earth. I think it wouldn't be hospitality if the people in it didn't want to absolutely celebrate just the best of what this industry can do. So we always ask our guests, like, without being too morbid, but if you just had one day left on Earth, where would you stay? Where would you want to eat, and what event would you go to? So maybe you could take us through. Perhaps let's start with hotels. Where would you stay?
This is one of the hardest questions. This is the second hardest question to my desert island dinner, which I think about all the time on repeat in my head. I thought about going somewhere glamorous like the Maldives, but actually I think the UK hospitality industry is amazing. Recently, as I've been working with hotels who are really like working on a sustainability journey or already part of it, I discovered Le Manoir au 4 Saisons. It's been around for years. I don't know why it only recently came into my sort of sphere. I would go there. I think it's just brilliant. They're such a beacon doing what they're doing. They have an huge garden where they grow all their own produce. They have loads of processes in place to be waste free, to be really sort of sustainable with how they operate their business. Also in terms of how they look after their teams. They just sounds like an amazing place. So I'd go there. It's in Oxfordshire, so we drive down. Possibly have a pub lunch on the way, but that's not part of it. Drive in, spend the afternoon exploring the gardens and the grounds. They're vast, and sort of maybe if I could talk to the gardeners, find out a bit, brilliant. Then I'd go for their dinner in their restaurant, which I think is an 8-course, 2 Michelin star tasting menu. So I'm sure it would be utterly divine. And then stay in their 5-star hotel. I think it would be just morbid way to ending it, but the best way to go, I think.
Sounds amazing. And you're absolutely right. I think, if anything, of the last 18 months, we've really started to discover these gems of properties and hospitality experiences right here on our doorstep. I have to brag a little bit. So Sarah Powell, the HR director for that hotel, is one of the Atollo mentors, which is fab. So anyone who wants to kind of know a bit more about running amazing teams like that and building that kind of culture, you could do a lot worse than kind of log on to Atollo and check out Sarah. But I completely agree. And I also think you mentioned something there, which kind of probably ties into Too Good To Go a little bit as well. This idea of local menus, this idea of venues with kitchen gardens, I think it's absolutely huge. I celebrated a notable birthday recently, and we went to one of the Pig hotels, which is now kind of a growing chain. And just the simplicity or apparent simplicity with which they seem to have a really seasonal menu, a nice kitchen garden, a couple of chickens on board, but actually they have this 25-mile menu where everything just came local.
Amazing.
And you just think, I can understand the effort to get that set up, but once it's in play, why is that much more complex than any other supply chain, especially with perhaps Brexit, where you're relying on international suppliers and logistics? And so I thought it was a really interesting take. And I also think, as you think about properties where you want to work at, if it is a challenge bringing people to hospitality right now, if you wanted to be a chef, why would you want to be a chef where you're making exactly the same menu 365 days a year? Why wouldn't you want to be a chef somewhere where you go, well, actually, what is there today?
What's fresh to pick? Absolutely, it'd be incredible. The Pig, I've been to one of them, and just stunning as well.
But I also think it's really important that we try and show that I don't think it has to be luxury. A lot of these hospitality trends start in luxury, and that's great. Perhaps more resource, perhaps more focus on that stuff. But I think in the coming years, it'll be really interesting to see whether some of those successes can be replicated in mainstream hotels, so we can really start to have a big impact on this industry's footprint, particularly around, I think, kind of food and stuff that could be happening on property or sourced locally. Really interesting. Lovely. Anyway, I didn't mean to go down that path. Of course, this is your last day on earth, and there's lots of reasons why you picked that luxury hotel. So let's talk events. What would be the last event you'd go to, do you think?
A wedding. I love weddings.
Just any wedding?
Any wedding. I would go and crash a wedding. I think they are just so beautiful. I can't believe all the things that need to be organised and how events teams and companies are able to put them together. They're so talented, and they are just days filled with love and food and probably quite a lot of booze as well. So I'd crash a wedding if it wasn't a friend's that I could go to.
They are just absolute bubbles of joy, aren't they? No, I think it's brilliant, and such an exploding industry as well for the last few years. I mean, there's just, again, careers and roles being created all the time at big events companies and in the supply chain of just getting little bits of the day perfect. So a huge project. Although you can't always, I don't know about you, there's also that slight relief when it's over as well, because it is such a big project. If event management is not your life, there is a sense of, we can actually get on with our normal lives now. We're not checking on the allergies of our uncles and aunts.
I'm going to one this weekend, and my friend feels like it's her second job organising her wedding. So it's intense, but they're just such wonderful days, and they've been so affected by COVID. So it's nice to see them coming back and those businesses being able to get back into full swing. Yeah,
and also showing massive creativity, right? I think my little sister got married this summer, and in the end they just did a marquee in a field, right? And just kept it really open. Obviously, you have to be a little bit weather blessed in England, and kind of fully kind of vegan menu, and you just really kind of thinking about it in really sensitive ways. You can just about do it, but I think it's a big time for weddings coming back, and there'll be some good ones for sure. So you'll get that wish. I'm sure of it.
Yes. It's going to be a great last few days on earth. Can't wait.
Good stuff. Well, look, our last section with you is called the guest book, and I'm glad we left a little bit of time for it, because I really wanted to dig into some of your experiences, both professionally as you think about sustainability and the mission of you and Too Good To Go, but also think about your career, because I kind of teased at the start. I think it's fascinating the way you started in kind of frontline operations. And it feels like you've worked in marketing, you've worked in HR, and now you're working in sustainability. And I think you're obviously kind of, whether that's planned or by accident, I think there's a lot of people who could probably learn something from that. So the guest book, take us through some of your wisdom of the last few years and your journey.
So I have two sort of key things that I think would be useful for people who are just starting out. So my first is that experience on the floor, I do believe is essential. Whatever you then decide to do afterwards, actually knowing how an operation runs, feeling the pains, feeling the joys of people that you're going to be working with is really important. I think if you go into sales, if you go into recruitment, if you go into marketing, if you don't really understand it, people don't believe you. They don't buy into what you're then looking to do, whether you're in head office or not. That time on the floor is really important. So if you're just starting out and, wondering what to do, or you're struggling within a role in a different part of the business, get on the floor, spend time there and really understand it. I think it's really important. I still do it now. So when we're working with new businesses, we'll go to the sites and we'll understand what their food waste is and how it works in order for us to integrate the app in. And it's so valuable because every business is different. So that's sort of the one thing I'd leave in the guest book. And then the second is, whether you're new in your career or you've been doing it for decades, I think sustainability isn't going anywhere. It was a bit of a buzzword for many years, but I think post-COVID, it is now a business pillar. It's a way of life. So my second piece of advice would be, whatever your role is, you can add more sustainable actions and be more sustainable. So whether that's, you work on a hotel reception and you can help minimize the paper printing, or whether you work in a kitchen and you can reduce your food waste, let me know, too good to go. Or whether it's that you're running a big team and leading. I think it's really important that we all see the benefit of balancing profit and purpose, because you can make money by being sustainable. It's not expensive to be sustainable. Often it's actually cheaper, because if you're wasting less, it's less cost to the business, right? So I'd say, whatever your role is, if you're listening, just have a think about how you can do better for the planet. Whatever team you're in, I guarantee there'll be ways, there'll be businesses out there you can work with, or just simple actions you can take within your office. And it's been a real joy over the last few years being able to work with businesses who, initially didn't have much that they were doing sustainability wise, but now are really excited, really engaged, and able to be more profitable because of it. So I think that's what I'd
no, I think that's fantastic. I think you're absolutely right. We're seeing this kind of real mainstream shift towards thinking about cost and productivity in like sustainability, but also, and again, I'm kind of bang on about it probably, I think it's just so closely tied to the talent agenda as well. I think if you are more local and you're giving control to a property or a team and saying, you guys come up with those solutions, you guys can see if you can figure out that plan. I think, well, those are the places you want to work, right? If you've got a head office that you never see and they're giving you rules and processes, menus and paperwork, and you just think, this isn't actually that relevant, and this isn't the best way that I could serve my customers in this location. I think going back, I think sustainability does equal more local. And I think going back to a more local approach where people can think about, well, what's customer demand like on our doorstep? And how is that, how are those demand drivers changing? And then reflecting that, saying, hey, team, we could get together and you can work in a different way. Again, we use the example of sustainable menus, but perhaps it doesn't have to be as complicated as that. It can just be really looking at, like, say, waste in the hotels, just different ways of working.
Separating your waste. I think most businesses now do, but some don't. Just like getting a different bin. Like, it's so simple, but it makes a difference on kind of not going to landfill, or when you're looking at your marketing campaign for the year, how can you tie sustainability into that and be genuine as well? Obviously, it can't be sort of for greenwashing purposes, but you can. It's really cool. It's really exciting. It's something new to talk about and to share with your followers or your guests. And I've actually started speaking to a lot more people in HR, whereas initially I'd just be talking to ops because food waste is an operational issue. But now actually talking to the recruitment teams, it's a talent attraction tool. If you have sustainability practices and you can allow people to learn more about sustainability, people love it. They ask in interviews, what do you do for the planet? Which I don't think people did before. No chef ever asked me that when I was in recruitment. But now I think it's a big topic. So really important.
Fantastic. And I'd love to know a little bit more about Too Good To Go, and I'm sure I'm not the only one. So I know it as a consumer. So I know the app that kind of slightly outside of core hours, you can kind of pick up leftover food, but I'm guessing there's a bit more behind the scenes. What are you working on to help some of the other kind of food waste priorities?
Absolutely. So what we do is we sort of introduce ourselves to businesses, understand what their food waste issue is. So, if they're coffee shops that have sandwiches at the end of the day, or if they're carvery restaurants that have, surplus meat and potatoes, we then integrate our app. It's really simple to use. So it's basically exactly the same as a user's back end. It's just slightly, you can add magic bags rather than reserving them. And we then train their teams, get them excited, get them on board, and then launch. The beauty of it is incredibly simple to use. You're not needing lots of kit, and it's not expensive. It's actually free to use. So it's a really beautiful app to work with and to launch.
Yeah, very cool. Very cool. And do you think there's a bigger agenda around kind of potentially food banks and community groups as well, to kind of make it a bit more, I guess, to help it work at scale?
Absolutely, and to really create that circular economy. Yes, so we are doing a lot of work as teams on how we can help get that surplus food to those who don't have enough. So tackle both food waste and food insecurity at the same time. Our app also has a partnership with FareShare, which is an incredible business who are doing great things. So our users are able to rescue a bag and also donate to FareShare. And we're looking at how that can be even bigger in 2022, because they're two really big issues in the UK, which is shocking how many people can't afford to eat. But if we can help address both of them, I think we'll be creating a really solid circular economy, and showing that you can do good and make money at the same time.
Yeah, perfect. Lovely. And I guess the last question I've got for you, which I think is always interesting, where people have gone from operations into more of a kind of head office role. What was that moment, or what were those moments leading up to that switch that made you think, I've seen enough of operations, I haven't yet found something else I want to work on? What was it that you kind of made you think, I want to change trades a little bit within hospitality, and I'm ready to do that? Because I think a lot of people are kind of thinking about what next at the moment.
Yeah, so I actually ended up in recruitment by total fluke. I went to a recruitment agency to look for something new. What's next? And they were saying, actually, we only hire people from the industry. Would you be open to trialing? So it was a total fluke, really. So there was no sort of moment that was like, I need to get out. But that sort of then led me there. And then I realized I loved it, and then moved into a role that was more sort of marketing focused, and then now too good to go. I think it's always worth sort of looking what's out there. Look on job boards, and don't just necessarily type in what you do at the moment. The beauty of hospitality professionals is the resilience that everyone who works in the industry has, and also the skill set that you develop is so broad that honestly you can do anything. If you've got if you're determined and want to try something new, I think you're able to switch. So you don't necessarily have to have that I need to get out of here moment, but you can. There's lots of things out there.
Yeah, that makes sense. So just kind of keep an eye out on the different things and keep as broad a mind as possible.
Exactly.
Like, maybe your passions and passions and your skills may fit something very different to what you're doing now. Yeah, exactly. So many people just end up in jobs that they've never even heard of, right? And that's the really interesting thing about this industry. So you just have to keep that open mind and be in the right communities, like on LinkedIn and on Atollo, and just kind of continually contributing, so people can kind of see who you are and what you're about, I suppose.
And also, if anyone asks you if you want to go for a cup of coffee, always say yes. That is also my other piece of advice, because the second job I found in recruitment was from someone saying, do you fancy grabbing a coffee? And then the same with Too Good to Go. So I think network with people, meet people, say yes to things. I think it's always a great way for your career.
Yeah, I love that advice. And the kind of lockdown equivalent, I suppose, is that, do be open to just people randomly connecting with you on LinkedIn or Atollo, and take that 30-minute call. It's amazing. With no travel time, it's amazing just how many new people you can meet in a day, and book in a couple of lunchtime slots. No, totally agree. Lovely. Look, Harriet, it's been absolutely fantastic to share kind of this lunchtime with you and hear more about your story, and of course, hear more about how sustainability is going to play a massive role in hospitality. Unfortunately, that's kind of the end of our time together. Time to check out, if you like, of the Corinthia Budapest. But it's been great. So hopefully you've enjoyed the experience and spending some time with us.
I have. Thank you so much for having me. It's been lovely.
Don't be silly. It's been our pleasure. I absolutely love your story, and I think that there's so many people who thinking about hospitality, thinking about where next, and it's really important to remind people that it really is your opportunity to grab and see where you want to take it next, and be open to opportunities that may never exist. So really appreciate your time and sharing that with us today. We'll see you on Atollo. I'm sure you'll be open to questions and people reaching out for a virtual coffee, as we were just saying.
Please do.
And for everyone watching, and thanks for spending some time with us and hearing a bit more about careers in hospitality. And big thank you to our guest, Harriet. That's all from me. We'll see you at the next one of these. Take care and stay safe. See you soon. Bye-bye.